Every place carries questions. Questions written in its landscapes, its languages, its archives, and even its silences. Across the Southern Hemisphere, our stories have been shaped by trade routes and migration, struggle and imagination, and decisions made generations before we even arrived. The Southern Question is a podcast about curiosity. Together with leaders, historians, and citizens, we explore the tensions and forces that shaped our past, our present, and the possibilities that shape our future. This is where history lives. This is where history speaks. And this is where we begin. I'm Jolene Martin, and I'll be asking the Southern Question.
The life of Nelson Mandela is featured in this week's episode via Willa Boezak's powerful body of work, The Blue Era. Through 12 striking paintings, the life of Madiba unfolds as memory, as movement, and as a nation in formation. But this is more than reflection. It is an invitation to understand the role of art in the liberation of a country and its place in shaping what comes next. What do these images reveal about who we are and who we are becoming and what now is being asked of us? This is the Southern Question. Doc, I know you said I mustn't call you Doc, I must call you Willa.
Please.
I'll try to remember it. I hold you in such high regard. I must say I'm super thrilled about this interview.
Me too.
I missed my opportunity to have a real conversation with you during the Khoisan saga, even though we were both in it.
Yes, I know.
You as thought leader and myself as host.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to be able to have this time with you for many reasons, but one of them being, and I hope you don't find this disrespectful, but I do think you're one of the coolest guys.
Without a wife. Maybe this will help.
Maybe this will help.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about your permanent exhibition here at the castle.
Yeah.
And I was so touched when you launched it that I thought we must do a deep dive today. Please tell us, give us a brief overview of the entire exhibition.
Thank you very much, Jolene, for inviting me to this very special moment for me to take a dive into this art exhibition. It's actually a series of paintings, but it shouldn't be regarded as loose paintings. It's actually one story about a man filled with very important, powerful heroes and heroines, mothers, women that also helped him and shaped him. And I think that historical context is very important. It's a biographical series about the first 80 years of his life, starting with 1918, when he was born in Mavezo, and then moving up through his boyhood. He grew up in Kunu because his dad dies when he was 9 years of age. And then we move on to where he was became the prefect of the Methodist college. I will later on tell you guys why I mentioned this. And then we move on to where he were youngsters, he and Walter Sisulu, in the 1940s when they joined the ANC. And they were actually the people, the youngsters, who asked Walter Sisulu who asked the leader of the ANC at that time to establish a youth league. So they were instrumental in the establishment of the Youth League. And then obviously after he graduated as a lawyer, he and Oliver Tambo, they established the first African law firm in Johannesburg. So they did very important work for the poor people like in Sophia Town, etc. And then later on, in the early 50s, he married Evelyn, a marriage that didn't last. And in the late 1950s, he met and married Winifred Madikizela. And we know how a firebrand she was politically.
Love her.
Yes, yes. So some powerful women in his life. I will return to that theme later on. And then obviously as he became more of an activist, and then the ANC at the time, they established the African National Congress in 1912 because they foresaw at that time the horrible consequences when the Native Land Act would be promulgated in 1913. So they prepared themselves for this breaking up of black communities in South Africa. So then after that, after 1913, South Africa was divided, 13% for black people and 87% for white South Africa. So every black person moving into white South Africa had to carry a dompas. Otherwise, they would be jailed. Of course, the dompas thing was in the 1800s already against the Khoisan, who then would be regarded as vagrants in their own country, especially in the Western Cape where it started, and they would be jailed if they were caught without a fixed address. And that is where they found a haven, a safe haven on missionary stations. So that is the context there. But moving on to Mandela. So
before you move on though, Doc, let's just, for our younger viewers, because the show also serves as great education.
Yes.
What was the dompas?
The dompas was forced on people like a kind of an ID document. But you must carry it on you. It's not like we have ID documents that we can leave at home. And if you are caught in street and a policeman would stop you, the Khoisan person or an African person then in Mandela's time, and they were caught without a dompas, they would go straight to jail. So it was horrible. Even if you forget it at home, which is human, then you also will land into trouble. So it was a horrible system to control people. The movement of people were controlled by the dompas system. Just as the dopstelsel was enacted in 1600s to control the Khoisan people, to the cheap wine, to make them always, without money. That was their pay and a little bit of food and that kind. So the whole system of controlling people began in the Dutch era and then the British era when Mandela was still then a leader of this youth league.
So if we see the dompas as a driver's license is now, and I often forget my driver's license in another handbag, in another wallet, whatever it is. You're saying that without that document, I would have been thrown
straight to jail. Yeah. Even the enslaved people also, later on, they also had to prove that they had a boss on a certain farm. And if they were found without a dompas, then they always also would be thrown into jail. These kind of regulations, of course, wasn't imposed on the white population, obviously,
Understood. You can take us further as you were, Doc.
Yeah, okay. Now, then he became more of an activist. Now, this we should understand. Since 1912, for 50 years, the African National Congress followed in the footsteps of Mahatma Gandhi with his philosophy of satyagraha. It means to resist without violence. Non-violent resistance was the thing to do for 50 years. But the apartheid government didn't respond in the same way. They responded violently. They shot people, they killed people, they murdered people. So, and Mandela and his friends like Sisulu and Tambo and Govan and Becky, they couldn't handle it anymore. So then they actually felt that they were forced to establish also a military wing. That was Umkhonto weSizwe, Spear of the Nation. They wanted to respond in the same manner that they were dealt with. So these guys then started with Mandela as the first commander-in-chief of MK. Oh, MK has another meaning today, but
It's
okay.
very different meaning today, sir.
sorry. Let me just concentrate on Madiba. So, and then they responded in this manner because they felt, and obviously, then he became, he was hunted down, thrown into jail, and released, and then he became what was called by our people the Black Pimpernel, and he hid himself for 2 years at Lily's Leaf, a house, and he also changed his name, but it didn't work. And then the Rivonia trial in 1963 to 1964, 2 years. And you know, this is the thing that youngsters should understand. We don't believe, since 1994, we don't believe in capital punishment. But earlier, in the apartheid days, certain people like murderers or rapists were hanged. And the prosecutor actually requested that Mandela should be hung. And he wasn't afraid. He said in a 4-hour-long speech, 4 hours, his testimony, he said that I am prepared to die for my cause. Then his lawyer said, what are you saying? You must change that. So you must insert now, if needs be. It wasn't his words. It was the lawyer that told him, please say it need, because if you say you are prepared, they will hang you. That was the historical context of his speech. What I want to tell you is at that moment, he was willing to give it all. Willing to give his life. So then obviously then he was jailed, and first for 18 years on the Robben Island, and then for another couple of years and in Pollsmoor, and then the last phase was easier because then the negotiations between him and the clerk, oh yeah, when he was in the chair, Mandela told him once, Master the clerk, where is your report? So that is how powerful he became after his release on the 11th of February 1990. And then the election, the biggest that we had thus far, the most exciting one. I still voted then. And he became the first president. Not that he wanted to be president. People don't understand that. Because he was already 76 years of age. So he said, no, somebody younger should take. He said, no, you are even the people in exile, the leadership under Chris Hani and Oliver Tambo, which was sent by Chief Lutuli to lead the struggle from abroad. So when he was, then he said, okay, I'll serve, but only one term. Not 2 terms, only 1 term, because you must take my age into consideration, which he did gracefully. The best president that we ever had, in my view.
I agree.
Yes. So that is roughly the first 80 years, and then he actually enacted so many wonderful things. He started things, but he couldn't complete it. I think that he just wanted to lay a basis for reconciliation, for justice, things like that. And one of the things, that's why I've included this huge painting about the TRC, is one of his the things that is part of his legacy. And the TRC is the Truth and Reconciliation. Truth means for justice, and the truth and reconciliation means that people, that so many communities who were torn apart by apartheid with racist policies. I mean, I can't believe it. We were proud Khoisan people, my forebears, and the Nama people, all of them, the Griqua. The Griqua is the oldest organized, not the oldest, but the oldest organized Khoisan community, starting from the mid-1700s with Adam Kok, the first, who was also incarcerated here for a little while at the castle. But the apartheid government had the audacity to play God and to change the identity of all Khoisan people, making them Cape Colored. 1950. Now, I was born in 1948, so apartheid, and we grew up together. That's my guy. So my whole life was actually evolved around the apartheid system. My whole childhood, everything, I had to follow these apartheid steps. But the thing is that the TRC painting is to remind us what Mandela did as a foundation for his rainbow nation. We're not there yet, but I'm not in despair. I'm not of those guys. Oh, rainbow nation is a stupid idea. It's dead. No, I'm not that kind of guy. I think Madiba bashing became a fashion for guys that didn't do one single thing in the struggle to liberate us. Not a single thing. They were not even born yet when Mandela was sent to jail for 27 years. Where were they? Now they are, yep, and whatever. It's so irritating for me. I'm not saying Mandela is a kind of a, that is also, we must not elevate him till, he became whatever, and semi-god. Well, no, not, in fact, he never sought it.
Correct.
We made him that icon. He didn't say, I'm a hero, I'm an icon. We made him that because he deserved it. Now, I also see his weak points because he was a mere human being and he didn't have the experience to govern a country like South Africa. But he laid moral foundations. A foundation, a value-laid foundation. That's what he did. Now we come and we are so brave. Then I also say, what are you doing? What have you done? Before what have you done? Will you prepare to give up your life for this South Africa? It's kind of hard questions that you must ask people. So just
take a seat.
Yeah.
Take a seat.
Yeah, okay.
That's what we tell them. We tell them now, take a seat.
Take a seat.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't heard that expression.
Oh,
no.
You can use it now. You can steal it.
Take a seat. Yes. Yeah.
Doc, you've created such an incredible time capsule. It feels like a time capsule. And it encapsulates so much. I feel like this interview is going to be a research resource for people who are living abroad, for my own nieces and nephews who live in Portugal and Finland, but are indigenous.
Yes.
So I want to dig deeper into this exhibition. First question though, why blue?
Yes, I've been asked that many times. When I started in January 2013 with this idea, then I thought, no, I've never used only one color. I prefer pencil sketches, of course, but I always use vibrant colors, to portray the Khoisan people and so on, and other cultural communities also. Because I love colors and so on. But this time I thought about his life. what was what made Mandela what he became, and that was his tenacity, his struggle, but also his triumph. And I thought about one color, and I thought about the struggle of our brothers and sisters from this continent, that centuries ago they were abducted to America, and there they were enslaved. People talk about slaves, but they were not slaves. They were enslaved. They were good people being enslaved, stolen, and then taken their life away. So they couldn't, we think about a democracy these days. We can speak, but they didn't have that privilege to speak up against, especially in the South. So they used music, and the so-called Negro spirituals were to express their faith. The jazz was to express their joy. But the blues was an expression of their tribulation and their anguish and their hurt and their frustrations. So I thought only one color is needed, because that is what is actually Mandela's, most of his life was a life of sacrifice, of tribulation and anguish. And it's only later on, at a very, very late stage of his life, he actually could taste freedom. But he had a long history, a long walk to freedom.
I could listen to you for days, and it's a problem because I need to remember to interview you. You are absolutely incredible, and the way you've translated his life for a younger generation. My work is quite simple. You've done the hard work here. When you compiled this 12-piece collection, what version of Madiba were you trying to capture?
First of all, not the president, not as president.
Yes, no, not the president.
Not as the president. That was just added on, but not as the president. Can I go a little bit back? Not starting with the first painting. Let me just go a little bit back. I've worked for 5 years in Kimberley as a commissioner, but that's another point. And then another 4 years in South Korea. And when I came back in 2011, I told myself, I'll never touch a painting brush again. Really, I'm done with art. So, and then 2012, when I told this to my family, 2 members of my family, my sister Edna and my cousin Russell, they were actually very upset with this decision, and they inspired me, or they convinced me to start painting again. And I, just as a matter of testing my skills again after 10 years, I did a pencil sketch of Mandela. I don't know why I picked him. It's just because he has a very memorable face. You can easily draw him, and people can see who Mandela is very easily. He has a very unique features. Also like his unique dance and his unique voice. I mean, you can really portray very easily. Iconic, yes, is the word. So in 2013, going back, in 2012, I don't know if you remember this, Jolene, but in 2012, he was already 90 years, odd years, but 94 or something like this in 2012. So, yeah, 94. So he was an old man, and in and out of hospitals. You remember how ill he was?
The nation was in prayer.
Yes, me too. So I thought, hey, Willa, pick up the brush, pick your color, do research. And while I was doing the reading, A Long Walk to Freedom, but I actually prefer the second one because Long Walk to Freedom is a great book. I mean, there's many cultural stuff about his boyhood also, but it was written it was a ghostwriter's work, which is fine. I mean, they had conversations, of course, but then the second one, Conversations with Myself, that is his real voice. So I thought, right, okay, and I've done, but I need also some pictorial books, like I can see, and also like Charlene Smith's Mandela was a good one with good black and white pictures in it, which is good because I can't easily then translate it into blue from the that's why I never use the color photo. Always the old black and white. That's kind of easily to see how I can translate that into blue. So, and when in January 2013, I made up my mind. You know, I'm a very disciplined person. Maybe I look like, but I'm very disciplined. When I put my mind to it, I do it. So I started to tell myself, this year, 2013, starting in January to December, one painting per month, which I did. One painting per month. Now, this is so strange. In December, when I busy finishing the last one, he died on the 5th of December. It was like he was waiting for me to get it done.
Wow. Woo. Sure. I can't imagine that kind of spiritual link, but I can feel it. I can feel it. And this is why I really needed to speak to you, was you're a theologian, and you just have that extra layer to your existence and to your work, which I appreciate. But on a very practical level, being an artist myself, I suppose, there is so much in your work which makes me want to stare at it for long and almost decode it. It feels like it's heavy with code, and you've left clues.
I have left.
You left clues?
Yes.
Let's get into that. I knew it. Let's get into it. Okay, this is our version of the Da Vinci Code. Let's decode. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I've actually left, I think, because we have a time limitation, but let me tell that the first clue or code is in the very first painting. The very first painting is how he grew up. But listen now to this. I've mentioned it, but now I'm going to say a little bit more about it. Then his father died when he was 9 years of age. Now all the historians, they skip that part. Then he, after the first 9 years, after that, he was taken into the royal household of the Tembo in Kuno. Who made that decision? It's a mother. A single parent. You know, that is so sad. It's also a biblical thing, how pastors and theologians, to my irritation, interpret the Bible as if the man is there and the women. It's such nonsense, so ungodly. So, you know, you must, when you read that, I mean, obviously I have all these little descriptions so that people can understand and follow the biographical story. But if you read the first one and you have time, you must have, say, 15 minutes or so, and you read that, then you must, then the historians leave out the part, the role of a single mother. Making a decision that for him to grow up as a Khoisan man, he needs a man. But it was her decision. She could have kept him. And she let him go. And it's in that royal family that he learned his culture, his history, and the spirituality of the Tembo Xhosa nation. That's why I've drawn him in his cultural robes, his beads, his karos. And coming to that, so that is one thing that we must, and then we forget, starting from that decision of his widowed mother, starting from them, all the women in his life that he knew, that shaped him also. Lillian Ngoyi, Winnie Mandela, all those women, he always recognized them as equals, which many men today struggle with because they think they are the superior sex, which is utter nonsense.
I love that you've brought that up, and it gets me thinking, then he surely was initiated. So as Khoi people, as Khoisan descendants, the importance maybe is the initiation called a ngao?
Yes.
The importance of having those practices for a young man particularly is something she recognized.
Yeah.
Something his mother recognized.
Yeah. Now, yes, the Khoisan people, of course, they do have the ngao, starting with the burying of the umbilical cord, and then the hokmesi, the hut maiden ritual, and also for young boys at the age of more or less 12 or to 16, and then they come of the marriage. If they do get married, I'm talking about the old days, certain marriage, certain symbols also there's a ritual, and then when they are also buried. But with us, and it nearly happened the same with Mandela. That's why I'm mentioning with us, the Khoisan people, when you die, in the old days, it's unpractical these days, but when you die, your body must be buried at the place where your umbilical cord was buried. That's why Sarah Baartman was buried in the Eastern Cape, Henkie, because the umbilical cord was. So Mandela, it was wonderful that when he died, he already said, no, take my body to Tono. It's a way where his nows happen, you see?
Yeah.
It's a full life circle that he completed in that way.
Thank you for correcting me. The pronunciation is ngao, not ngao. Ngao. And also how important what you've just said, relating to the repatriation we've just witnessed at Kinderle.
Yeah.
So the indigenous belief is that of full circle.
It is, yeah.
So people might wonder why we're getting up in arms about a repatriation, but it's simply because of what you've spoken about right now.
Yeah.
I feel like, and again, people don't know this about me, I hold the distinction in art, only art, nothing else, just art.
Okay,
That's how obsessed I am with art. So when I look at your work, I can't help but break it down. And one of the things I noticed very early was your composition. You think very carefully about the composition.
Yeah, I do.
It's very obvious that you do. Talk to us about what you decide goes into your composition, where you lay it, and also in the TRC piece, for instance, here, there are flags, which also must be clues and coded in a way. So,
it is
talk
coded.
to us,
Okay. I'm enjoying this interview very much.
So am I.
I've included musicians. Going back to the blues as a way of expression of anguish and tribulation and difficulties. I play a little bit of piano, so I thought, wow, Mandela can't be so lonely, you know. Let's insert in every painting a musician, but especially the blues and the jazz musicians, only those two. So, and sometimes you won't believe it. In the first painting, I have chosen, because of his music, Pops Mohammed, who also plays, you know, he uses African traditional instruments and also Khoi instruments. So the kora that I've portrayed there is also an instrument used by the Khoisan people, but not using that modern harp shaped thing, but we use the calabash and so on, especially the women. And calabash it's hollowed out so that the volume can be better, you know. So for me, the inclusion of musicians was so important to create an ambience of musicality, of what he was feeling. You won't believe me, but sometimes I would put on Hugh Masekela and play his music on the flugelhorn while I was trying to capture that sound. I want people, you know, I would love people to dig a little bit deeper into these paintings, because when you can hear in your mind the sound of the flugelhorn or the sound of the trombone of Jonas Gwangwa, then you are in it. Then you are inserting yourself into that portion of that life of his, and so on as the series go on. So that is the second thing I just want to mention, because we can't talk too deep into detail, but that is an important thing. If we talk about, you know, why I inserted certain things.
Music was such an important part of the resistance as well.
Of course, yeah.
So when you speak passionately about it, I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
It's the Sophia Town piece. I think it's.
Yeah, Sophia Town.
Oh,
yeah, Sophia Town.
Talking about triumph in those places.
Ah,
right.
Yes.
What a time.
Yes, and the race didn't count there. That's before apartheid moved in and destroyed Sophia Town, but made it triumph.
Are there any people, moments, places, elements that an enjoyer of your work might not understand at first glance that you would like to expose now for us?
I've talked about this, but let me specifically mention it. The picture where I included Mahatma Gandhi and then Mandela on the other side. I don't know which one is it. Mm-hmm. That was the moment when Mandela decided to move away from the 50-year-long non-violent resistance to an armed struggle. For me, that is a clear shift in the philosophical thinking and the strategic thinking of the ANC. And he was the kingpin. He was the man to make that shift. And it's a huge responsibility. Huge responsibility. I remember in the 1970s, many of our young people, they left the country to join MK abroad. So, and that was Mandela's doing. And even when he was on Robben Island, he was still regarded by even the leaders in exile, like Chris Hani and Oliver Tambo. They still regarded him as the commander-in-chief. So it was up to him to speak the last word. Some of them were quite angry when he came back after 15 years of negotiations with the government. That's long. I mean, talk about Prime Minister P.W. Botha, who said, No, that was the Rubicon that he couldn't cross. Because Botha told him, I have conditions. One condition is, when you are released, you are banned to live only in Transkei. Second thing, you must drop the arm. He could have said yes, long ago. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm the commander-in-chief, chief in command, and I'm not going to abide by those conditions that you have posed to me. So that is the background. So that for me is really a picture where things changed. Completely the struggle changed. The one under Albert Luthuli, and then from Mandela of the young Mandela. I have a book also on the young Mandela forward. Till when he came back after 15 years, he said, what did he say? Throw your pangas into the sea. People didn't like that. Mm-hmm. They wanted to continue with the armed struggle. He said, no, that time is past now. Now is the time for reconciliation, creating a democratic South Africa, and we do it in the responsible manner. CODESA 1, CODESA 2 are the proof of that.
Do you feel, or is it that piece, do you feel that there is a piece that is misunderstood?
I don't know. I've tried to be as clear as possible, so I don't know how it can. That's why I have the descriptions, but I hope that people will read and try to understand what I mean by that. I don't know. Mm-hmm.
The discussions would be interesting, and particularly intergenerational discussions. When you imagine somebody walking through that door and going through the exhibition, who do you imagine?
The first time when I had the exhibition here at the castle, I thought there would be politicians too, but they didn't come, which is fine. Let me just go back a little bit. There is one thing that viewers can misunderstand.
Oh.
So I'm going back to that question. I said too easily, no, I wouldn't know. But I think this one is important. This series of paintings is in the first place an art exhibition. It's about art, and one picture paints 1,000 words. It's biographical, it tells a story. That's the first thing. Secondly, it's an educational tool, especially for youngsters that read about Mandela but not really know his life. They know Mandela mostly as the president, as the icon and so on, but not really from where he went through in his life to get where he got to eventually. But the third thing I think, totally misunderstood, is what Dennis Kruiwagen called in his book the spirituality of Mandela. When we look at Mandela, we never heard once that he conveyed something about his church affiliation or his religious affinity or faith, nothing. Because he respected the Constitution. He said we had enough of this friendship, this very close friendship, collaboration between church and state. It started in the days of Jan van Riebeeck, when the Dutch Reformed Church was the state church, and when the National Party took over in 1948, they virtually continued with that relationship.
You're making me think.
At the time, in the 70s, the moderator of the most powerful church in South Africa, the Dutch Reformed Church, was the moderator was Kurt Foster, and his brother was Prime Minister B.J. Foster. So close were they. The church proposed certain apartheid laws to the government, and they accepted it with joy. So that's why Alan Boezak called apartheid theology, apartheid a heresy. It's against God, it's satanic. So the spiritual, now you will tell me, no, well, that can't be. But in January, when I've noticed the illness of his health problems, and I that stopped painting for 10 years, I thought I have a responsibility. And I felt, maybe it sounds a little bit too, what do you call it, metaphysical or whatever, or ethereal is the word. But I did feel a spiritual connection. In spite of his quietness about his faith, or about the fact that he enjoyed Holy Communion by the Methodist priests on Robben Island. It was not something that he bragged about, because he knew in this new South Africa there must be a separation between church and state. We must appreciate the different spheres of religion, and also liberate the religions that were, shunned by like the Muslim faith and so on, shunned by the apartheid government. No, the equality of religions must be re-established, and I am not the one as the president to show where my membership of a church is. No, it's not. It's not my style. It's not right. It's not right to do that.
It's so
but he was a deeply spiritual. But he was a deeply spiritual man, a person. Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you bring that up. I'm currently reading Tutu's book, which is such an incredible education when it comes to Black theology. It's so incredible. And one of the thoughts I had was my late mother doing research and then understanding the role missionaries played in that first colonial encroachment. There's so much that can be spoken about it, and it's a sensitive one, so maybe we'll talk about it further and it can be a future episode. But if I can ask you, did you feel a tension, did you feel a struggle with the castle being a place shaped by colonial power and then placing Madiba's story inside of it?
Yeah, now for many years. The castle is a physical stronghold of colonialism. It's maybe in South Africa the most visible symbol of colonial power of the regimes that we had in the first colonial era under the Dutch, and then obviously the second, the British. But for me it's a struggle, name changing like that. Right at this moment there are 150 applications before the responsible minister, Gayton McKenzie, for the name change of streets and towns and mountains and stuff like that. I think we cannot make colonial damage or destruction invisible. We shouldn't allow our kids not to know about the damage during those two colonial and the new colonial era of apartheid. Somehow we must also capture that history. It's an ugly history, but amnesia is not the answer for that. So I never liked the castle, for obvious reasons. But then we also have a responsibility to liberate, to make what is ugly, to make it something beautiful, to recreate a new ambiance, a new symbolism that would retain the old but focus on the new. So we were blessed with the CEO, Calvin Gilfillan, who had the vision to liberate the castle, to make it open. I mean, look at what is happening here. It's a total different place than it was when I was a boy. Totally different. It's like day and night. So when I thought about, but this is a strange thing, Jolene, I didn't think about bringing this series into the, I couldn't see the link. Yeah. I couldn't see the connection. I totally, because I'm not in the army, I totally forgot that when he became the first democratic president, he automatically became also the commander-in-chief of the SNADF, the Defense Force. And the castle is one of the buildings that he had jurisdiction over. So I forgot that. So only last year, September, because I tucked away, I actually forgot it was tucked away in cupboards or whatever. And after 3 pictures. So, and in September I thought, my goodness, well, I can't speak to Calvin because now you see the link. And he also, you see, well, now obviously that you found at last your way to the right place, and this is the perfect place. And in this wonderful room, you know, this is where important people come to, you know, to have meetings and stuff like that. And they would tea time. At tea time, they didn't expect, but tea time they would look around and take notice of also this this series.
It's the very same room that we interviewed the Iranian ambassador in, and that briefing took place in that room. And I ushered him into this room, and he looked at the art, and it was like a breath of fresh air for him. So he enjoyed it. I want you to touch on something for me, please, because I think it's incredible that you've brought it up. On social media right now, our youngsters, and bless our youngsters, they really are awakening and conscientizing. Yeah. It's so beautiful to see. It's exciting to see. But I have noticed that there is a trend on particularly TikTok where our young people are a little bit upset that the castle is being used for festivals and events. I personally love it because I think the old grand dame needs a bit of joy in her bones.
I agree.
But if you could give a message to our young people, just to ease them a little bit, our young revolutionaries.
Young revolutionaries, please enjoy the openness and the hospitality of the castle. It's not the old castle any longer. It's an open place where you can come and enjoy yourself through your music, your poetry, your art, whatever you speak to. I was actually assisted by Mishle, and he's a lovely guy. He actually organized everything for me, and I'm grateful for him. But just two examples why the castle has become something totally different for the Khoisan people, my people. Firstly, we know that the mother of our nation, Kurtua, was buried here in this castle. So for us it's a painful memory, and then after a while, because she was a member of the Dutch Reformed Church, they moved remains of her body to the Grote Kerk, where it's somewhere, but it is there. The second thing is, then we had the first thing, to continue, then we had a ceremony for Kurtua in the castle, and with a bench. People don't understand that, but it's solid. So the solidity of Kurtua, to try to reconcile the Khoisan with the Dutch at the age of 18 as the interpreter of Van Riebeeck. She actually reconciled, she had organized the peace talks for 2-3 months between two warring factions. The Khoisan, Cape Khoisan, and were angry because their land was stolen. And then the guy, South Africa's first freedom fighter, the Moa Doman, his statue is also. So the Khoisan people is so linked culturally and historically and spiritually, because Kurtua had her ceremony here, and we had a ceremony for Moa Doman. I was present at both times to be privileged like that. And so this castle is open for all the young people. Come and enjoy it and liberate the castle, because you have also a responsibility. It's not just to enjoy it. No, you have a responsibility with your presence, with your new. Even if it's a rapping that I don't even like, it's alright, you can rap. It doesn't matter, but just come and liberate. Help our CEO. He wants to do something, but he needs your assistance.
And also, I feel like just dancing in this space, on a personal note, dancing here changes the frequency of the place, though. So there is something we can contribute to it.
Yes.
Jacques, if I can ask you, if Madiba were to look at South Africa today in 2026, what would he recognize and what wouldn't he recognize?
He wouldn't recognize the level of corruption. It was so that our first president was so honest. He had integrity. So he would be saddened, just like Archbishop Tutu was saddened, and he said it when he was alive, the Arch, saddened by how their beloved party, that they were willing to give their lives for, Tutu also, that it turned out this way that we have. But I'm also not one to despair, because in the center of the TRC painting are 2 children of different cultural communities. That was his dream. He laid, as I said, a foundation for a reconciled South African nation. He called it a rainbow nation as a symbol for different people, like our country's is it lot Ke means people coming together.
Yes.
It's a Khoisan proverb.
At the bottom of our coat of arms.
Coat of arms, that's the word. Thank you. At the bottom of the coat of arms. So, and he placed his hope in the youth, in the children. You remember how lovely it was for children to be around him?
Yes.
Always. Because he said, we old people, hey, we got, like me, I've got a baggage. An apartheid baggage. Being born in 1948, I have my baggage, I have my ugly memories of being humiliated. But I had to let go. I had to free myself of those feelings of enmity or hatred or whatever. And Mandela had not he came out without any feeling of vengeance. My goodness. Isn't that extraordinary?
Exceptional.
But he said, I place my hope in the children, the youth. And in my own family, my two daughters, I have 2 daughters. The eldest one is married to an Englishman, he's in London. Big fan of Arsenal.
We can't all have good taste.
He's a chef. And my younger sister, her fiancé is a Khoisan man. So, and my grandson, what is he? What is he? No, he's not black or colored or white or whatever. No, he's a Khoisan African. That is his identity. Not, we must stop identifying people in racial terms, because that is a satanic thing that became in during this so-called Aufklärung in the 1800s, when scientists, evil scientists, thought of this category of race. And of course, the white race on top, and then you go down, down, down to the Khoisan on the lowest rung of the ladder of humanity. When they dissected Sarah Baartman, that was the scientific finding that Khoisan people are nearer to the orang-utang than to people. Lowest rung. With Mandela, you see equality of cultures and religions and your affinities that you have. That's why I'm a Khoisan African, proudly so. And my daughters, my two daughters, they live it. They live these multiple identities that we have.
It's true what you said. They are evils that were brought here. And so often there is this debate and this argument about race. And I really believe the argument should be, do we require the race classification at all?
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
And I'm glad you took the conversation there, because as we get to the end of this now, the reason why Madiba is so special to me as well is because he submitted himself to DNA ancestry testing through WITS. And so when I wanted to do my DNA testing, I decided I would go to WITS as well. Because that's the institution nobody can argue with.
Yeah, no, it
and they do it ethically. And those tests, that test revealed that his maternal DNA was Khoi.
Yeah, that was in 2005, I think, yeah.
What does that say, Doc, about this imagined separate categorization that we just submit to?
The sad thing is that centuries ago, there was no separation or separateness, especially based on racial characteristics. So, Professor Jati mentions in one of his books, historian, the late Jati, that for a very long time, in all provinces, but let's take Eastern Cape as the example because that's where Mandela was born, new tribes came about because of this intermingling and intermarriages, like the Konukwebe, like the Inkwa, because language is a mother. There's a reason why we say language is a mother tongue, because those clans, those few clans, Khoi Xhosa clans, they speak Khoi language. In fact, all the cliques of the Xhosa, they inherited from the Khoisan. They never had cliques. So it's this, and it's so, it saddens me that today, especially after apartheid brought in the forced removals, my own family, we lived for years. I grew up in Somerset West, and I had a lovely childhood, and my brothers and sisters, we are 8, I'm the youngest, and in the early 70s, the bulldozers moved in and destroyed our house. In Victoria Street, the second most important street in Somerset West, Main Road, Victoria Street. We would live there. Big house, double plot. And then they said, no, we declare this street where the Boezaks live a black spot. That means it's black and it must be erased. Many other people from the Strand and the Somerset West were then thrown on the sandy hills of Makassar. I've preached there a number of times now, 3, 4 times. And I look at them and they still remember our family. But my mother was wise with money. So we could afford to get a new home in Easterava on our plot with our and so. But 90% of the people couldn't afford that. So forced removals meant the break-up, the destruction of congregations. The apartheid government was so Christian that they left all the religious buildings untouched because it's the house of God. Yeah. You remove the children of God.
Wow.
But you leave this four-walled structure intact because we are Christians. What kind of Christianity is that? So, when that happened, people here in Woodstock, for instance, everybody in District 6, there was no racial tensions or whatever. It was just people living together and that's it. Being thrown together and living together, and Jews and whatever, Khoisan and whoever they were, KPs and Chinese, oh. But apartheid said no. We take skin color as the criterion of humanity. That's the criterion. So, and they broke up Somerset West and every town and city in South Africa. You can, if you travel. And it's this spatial apartheid that is so difficult to reverse. Only the very lucky ones have enough money to move out where they didn't want to be. They created gang-infested areas. The way they built Manenberg, the way, I don't know, all the, and we've got the loveliest name, Lavender Hill.
But it's designed as a pressure cooker.
Exactly. So what happened is that Khoisan people totally forget what we had. The sisterhood, the brotherhood, the intermingling, the families, Khoisan family, Khoisa families, Khoisan families in the Northern Cape. I can go on, but just I've lived in Kimberley, so I know a lot. And we are becoming racist
And
as a result, xenophobic as a result. Far away from the most important value in the whole system, cultural system of the Khoisan people is Khoingam Khasib. It means to be human, to accept one another. Medemenselijkheid, menslievendheid, to love the neighbor as yourself. But we're forgetting that, and we are falling in this trap that the apartheid government, when they turned us into Cape Coloureds, we accept that, and that's it. And we forget that we didn't have that. It's a strange thing that people would accept over many years a bad thing, and they would forget the good things that their forebears have died for.
Thanks, Doc. This was beyond anything I could have imagined. I appreciate you. I applaud you. Thank you for everything you've done and continue to do. I just appreciate you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And when you were speaking about District 6, I got chills thinking that right now, today, right now, we can leave the castle and drive not so far away, and we see exactly what you've spoken about, which is this barren, scarred land.
After how many land?
With
how many
just
years?
a church.
Just a church. You don't touch the church.
Don't touch the church.
It's house of God. Okay. My father, Palom Andreas II, he actually in 1953, he died in that year, a very young age of 46. He actually took a course in art, a diploma in art at Zonnebloem College, District 6, yeah. And he came home and he died suddenly, and he didn't even know that he passed so well his art diploma.
And look at you honoring him today with your work.
I didn't have the privilege to be, been educated in art, but I inherited some of his talent. So that is for me. No, it's okay.
And before I finish with my southern question, I just want to put in a little plug right there, because I too didn't study acting, yet I've achieved so much in acting. And my mother, before she passed away, was a prolific author of beautiful poems. And then I asked her to author 2 specific ones for me, and she said, I don't know if I can, I've never studied it. I said, Mother, you come from the very people who created it. We created story, art telling, on the caves, on the walls of mountains. So that little paper to say that you can be an artist or you can be an actress, Asablief. So we end every episode with a southern question, Doc, and the question you've left me with today, I think, is what does it mean that we all, scientifically proven, come from the same ancient DNA story, but yet we continue to live apart? Thank you so much, Dr. Willa Boezak. I adore you.
Well, you are one of my favorite soapy stars. Yay! Aaron's play and the short stint in Caldas.
If that's how I get someone like you to say yes to an interview, I will continue to act.
Fishy Fashions. I watch all the episodes of Fishy Fashions.
Oh,
all of them.
Thanks, Doc.
Well, okay.
That was the best interview ever. Don't put that on camera.
No, don't put that on camera.